welcome inside. I guess this is the new location, Three Crows Studios, beautiful Morristown, Tennessee. We skipped down the road from Dandridge. A little lesson in Tennessee geography. My name is Dallas Danger. I'm joined by my best friend and colleague, Brian Logan. This is Two Guys Talking Baseball. Brian Logan, we are back.
We are back finally. After a long hiatus, we are back in stride and ready to go this season.
We're back without the cartoon dinosaurs. Brian, are you familiar with the 90s cartoon film We're Back? Dinosaur story?
I was not, but you brought it to my attention, and now I want to see it.
I don't remember anything about it. I haven't seen it as an adult. I just thought that was a fun movie reference to sneak in there. But, yeah, we're back. We're happy to be talking baseball again. Circumstances have changed a lot in our lives over the last 2 years since the last time we hit record on this thing. Obviously, we're in a different location. Brian has moved into a quaint little home, and we've got a small room as opposed to a big studio, but we're kind of happy with it.
Yeah, it's very quaint. It's not the Three Crows studio that we're used to, but it will definitely do, and we have just enough room to get exactly what we need to done.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I like the vibe in here. We got a ceiling fan, which is good for the air circulation.
Very nice, and makes all the banners kind of wavy.
Yeah, a little action for you if you're watching on YouTube, or if you're not, you can probably hear the fan a little bit coming through.
Yeah.
All right, Brian. Well, let's remind everybody, who we are. We met through professional wrestling. We sort of connected as people, though, with baseball. We're both big baseball fans. Brian's a huge Cubs fan. I'm a big Dodger fan. So, Brian, we're going to do a little check-in here. How you feeling about the Chicago Cubs?
Well, I still love my Cubs, but they got to do something, man. I mean, this pitching is atrocious, with a capital Rocious, because I'm telling you, man, we're back to the eighth inning. Anything can happen, and we can't play ball like that. The pitching staff has got to get better.
Well, it looks like they're trying. They picked up another reliever whose name escapes me, but, Tyson Miller came off the DFA wire and has helped him out in the bullpen. It's just interesting with the Cubs because with their track record over the last couple years, ever since they broke up that great 2016 World Series team kind of all at once and just shipped everybody out, you never know what they're going to be looking to do at the deadline, because half the time they act like they're in it to win it, half the time they act like they're tanking, and you just never know which Jed Hoyer you're going to get. And I don't want to put all the blame on him, because I think it's more the ownership than anything. That's part of the reason I think Jed Hoyer's in his position, is it was getting a little much for Theo, and now he's just kind of the scapegoat. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, maybe they'll go out and get some relief help at the deadline and really go for it, because the way it's going right now, every day they get further and further away from playoff position. And I know we just hit the halfway point of the season, really, so a lot of baseball left, but you're right, they got to do something about the back end of that bullpen, because they're playing a lot of good close games, and the offense is keeping them in ball games, and the starters are keeping them in ball games for the most part, and then you get to those late innings and it just all falls apart, and you're right, it's something's got to be done if this Cubs team is going to contend, but again, I think the question is, do they even want to contend?
Well, I think they came out there. I saw a list. They spent something like $239 million on players, and so they're spending the money. It's just the players aren't performing.
Yeah,
and Jed Hoyer gets blamed a lot by the Cubs fans, and maybe for good reason. But there are a lot of one-run games, and you just have to win those games. You can't constantly lose one-run game, for a week. You can't do that. You just can't do that and be competitive.
Well, and that kind of segues into my Dodgers, because that's something that good ball clubs do. Good ball clubs beat the teams they're supposed to beat, and they win close games more often than they don't. And that's kind of what the Dodgers have been doing. We just had a 9-game stretch, very conveniently on the calendar, because right before we lost Mookie Betts for a pretty extended period, probably a couple months. Max Muncy already on the shelf. We got some pitching injuries we're dealing with too. But 7-2 in that 9-game stretch, beating the teams we're supposed to beat. Getting what we need when we need it. Gavin Stone, just last night as we're recording, complete game shutout, first one in a couple years for the Dodgers. First complete game by a rookie for the Dodgers in 11 years. Shout out Hyunjin Ryu, who's back in Korea these days, but a lovable Dodger alum. But yeah, I feel really good about the Dodgers because this is a team that was put together to dominate. When you look at the money that was spent, the players that were put in place this season, added to an already pretty good team, but the goal is not what we're doing now. The goal for the Dodgers, 100%, very clearly and very out front, is what happens in October. And the additions of Yamamoto and Glasnow, and of course Shohei Ohtani, the big one, who we'll get to what he's been doing lately a little bit later in the program. But yeah, I feel really good about the Dodgers. And at the end of the day, World Series or not, go all the way or not with this year's team, I really love this team. The identity of this Dodger team is really great. There's some powerhouse guys that don't get talked about a lot. Miguel Rojas being one of them. He has started to, I think, make it very clear that he wants to coach and manage when his playing days are over, and that's showing on the field. And he's been a big part of Mookie Betts' success. You know, there's plenty of discourse about the level of success Mookie's had at shortstop, but from my point of view, watching him every day, he's doing about as well as you can expect. And Miguel Rojas is a big part of that. And yeah, so I'm feeling good about the Dodgers right now, on pace to win 100 games. I think we're going to hit a good hot streak once we get some guys back, which is coming. You know, but I like that even with the injuries, we're not rushing guys back. We're not pushing guys. We're getting guys healthy because, again, we know we can win this division with guys on the shelf. It's all about October because the last few years, October has been nothing but heartbreak for this Dodger team. And, you know, one of the things when Shohei, not to get too long-winded, but when Shohei came on board and they talked to him and asked him about why he chose the Dodgers, one of the things he pointed to was the fact that the front office told him flat out, they view the last 11 years, making the playoffs, winning the division, winning 100 games nearly every year, one World Series title, that's a failure. That's an organizational failure top to bottom. And I think that honesty and the idea that we have to do even better to feel like we're successful, I think that said a lot, not only to Shohei, but to me and to any other fan that heard that. That's a big thing. So I'm feeling pretty good about the Dodgers. I hate that the Cubbies are struggling a little bit. But
yeah.
It's funny, man. You know, you go back and listen to the original 11 episodes we did of this podcast in 2022, which should be available in any podcast feed. They're definitely still on YouTube if you want to go back and get a feel for what we were doing a couple years ago. Please do that. But I always had faith in the Cubs. I mean, and I even more so now with some of the additions they made. I love Shota Imanaga. He's finally hit his rough patch, but that's to be expected with anybody coming in first year, you know, from another league or from college or from high school or the minors, whatever. The big leagues is tough. I mean, it's the biggest step up is stepping into the big leagues from wherever you're coming from, whether it's AA, AAA, the MPB, the KBO. It's a big step up in competition. It's the best players in the world, especially now in this digital age we live in where scouts don't even have to get on a plane to see, you know, players from other countries that are doing well and have prospects, you know, and that's always been the thing. If you're good enough, they're going to find you. So Michael Busch, I love Michael Busch, man. He's fantastic. I loved him on the Dodgers, but knew eventually this was going to happen. And I'm so happy he went to a team that I still kind of follow through you and through some other friends of mine, the Cubs, because I love Michael Busch. And I think he's going to have a really long, successful career and potentially turn into a beloved player for the Cubs. I mean, he's that type of guy. So that's how we're feeling about our teams, but we're going to get right back into things. The first thing that we're going to talk about today, the Men's College World Series just came to a close, and our local boys, maybe surprisingly, finally got over the hump. The Tennessee Volunteers, Tony Vitello's squad, are the national baseball champions. Brian and I both watched Game 3 of that final series, and Brian, above all, that was a fantastic game. That was great TV from the first pitch all the way to the last.
It was so entertaining, and for guys like us that watch a lot of baseball, it was good to see the college game played that way and be so entertaining and so competitive.
Yeah.
And it was just a pleasure to watch those boys play.
It really was. I mean, top to bottom, both teams deserved to be there. They clearly, you know, I hate that A&M was without Braden Montgomery, projected first-round pick, you know, really solid player, but still a lot of talent on that squad, still fought till the end. I mean, it ended up being a one-run game from a 6-1 lead, and that speaks to Texas A&M's program. But we're going to talk about Tennessee and some of the things we saw. You know, for me, I'd heard about Christian Moore. I admittedly, you know, and this will probably change next season if we continue to do this podcast. But I don't keep up with college baseball quite as much as I probably should. But I'd heard a lot of talk about Christian Moore, SEMO, as we will refer to him. Leadoff home run, set the tone. Went out there right away and played Tennessee's game because they led the nation in percentage of their runs that came from the home run. They're very home run reliant, but that's because they got guys that hit them. I mean, I think they broke the record for most guys in a season to hit 20 or more. And SEMO just went out there and got one to hit and launched it. And that really set the tone. And the other thing for me, Brian, was Xander Sechrist, the starting pitcher for Tennessee. Talk about setting a tone and giving your team a chance to win. His stuff was disgusting. I mean, they talked in the broadcast, at the outset about his changeup,
right,
and how that was going to be a swing and a miss pitch. But that sweeper, holy cow! If he can take that sweeper to the pro level like that, that's an elite pitch. We're going to be talking about that pitch as one of the best in baseball if he can sustain that as he elevates and gets drafted and goes through the minor leagues.
I mean, his career is wide open if he can keep that kind of stuff going forward, you know. And SEMO, I mean, he's the backbone of the team. He's the spiritual guy that gets him through it, that keeps them up and playing. And it really showed on camera, and it showed in his playing ability.
Yeah, one of the key plays that I don't know that enough people are going to talk about from that game was in the seventh inning, top of the seventh inning, right before Tennessee kind of scored a bunch of runs and got out ahead more. There was a play at first base. A ball bounced over the first baseman's head. SEMO was right there backing it up, and it made it look routine. And that, to me, you know, especially at that level, separates you. And that's why he's projected to be such a high draft pick. That's why he's got such a bright future as far as projections go, because he's doing those little things. And, you know, ever since I started watching my team every day, the guys that do those little things each and every day that put in that extra work, those are the star players at the big league level. That's what separates you, I think, at that level is that little extra, you know, that you give to yourself and to your team, all in the name of winning. And he talked, you know, they interviewed him a little bit, and all he talked about was he dreamed of winning the national championship. That's why he was at Tennessee. That's why he was doing the things he did. So for him to pull that off and be such a big part of it, I'm sure that was special for him. And yeah, bright future ahead for SEMO, for sure. You know, just mentioning some other guys, Dylan Dreeling homered in all 3 games of the final series, first ever player to do that. You know, big deal. I mean, to step up in 3 big games like that and get a hold of one all 3 games, that's big. But the guy we really got to talk about, Brian Logan, that we really have to talk about is Kirby Cannell, the reliever. I guess he's been the closer. He pitched the 8th inning in the deciding game, but man, what a cool dude. I mean,
what a look, right?
Yeah.
And then he can play to back it up. I mean, he's already looking like he's been in the majors since the 70s.
Totally, man.
I mean, he's ready to go.
He's ready, man. He's great. And the impact he's had on the city of Knoxville and just that fan base and that program. And, you know, if you're not familiar with what we're talking about, look up Kirby Cannell. I saw a great post. It was a picture from the game 3, and it was him on the mound, and, you know, he's got the mustache and the hair, and if you can see his shoes, he's got great shoes. but it said, I've watched enough baseball to know that if a guy comes in on the mound looking like this and he throws left-handed, it is over.
Yes, totally over. Just shutting them down.
Really great stuff, man. We love this game because of the personalities that are in it, and I think Kirby Cannell is one of those. And wish all these guys the best as they move forward in their careers. And we were all very happy around here to see Tennessee get the job done.
Absolutely.
This is an area of the country, if you're not familiar where we live, where professional sports has never really been king because we don't have major cities close by. We have to go to Atlanta or Cincinnati or Charlotte to get big league major sports for the most part. So Knoxville having a Division I school that historically has been pretty competitive in the major sports is a big deal here. I mean, there's orange everywhere.
Everywhere you go, it's orange.
Yeah, you can't walk down the street here without seeing a checkerboard or a big orange tee. It's part of life here, and I'll admit it gets on my nerves a little bit, but I was very happy to see Tennessee get this done. And say what you will about Tony Vitello, their head coach, but he brought something to that program, and a lot of people view it as they act like they've never been there before, but those kids are having fun playing the game, and I think that's a big part of success in the game of baseball is the love, and the understanding that it's a pleasure, it's a privilege, and a blessing to get to play that game at that level, and
right.
You hear the best major league players talk about it. To get to play that game every day for a living and make the kind of money they make, it's a thrill and a pleasure. And Anthony Rendon aside, that's what it's all about. Loving the game, and if you love the game deeply enough, and you have the talent and you have the mindset, you can be successful. And Tony Vitello has brought that to Tennessee's program, and I honestly, if he sticks around and doesn't get poached by another program, I think this could be the first of many, multiple national championships. They've been in that position for the last 4 or 5 years as the top team. They've won the most games and since 2020 or 2021, I want to say. And so yeah, this could just be the first, not just the only.
Well, you talk about everybody on this level and the pro level, they're all good at that level. I mean, there's no real bad players at that level. I mean, some are better than others. And what makes them better than others is the fact that they do those little extra things when the time is needed to add to the game. And then they have that love for the game. Those are the two it factors that you got to have to stand out. And these boys have it.
Yeah. And again, hats off to Texas A&M. They've got it too. Really good program. Saw that Schlossnagel, I think I'm saying the coach's name right, is headed to Texas, which is a big deal. It was kind of interesting, I had a conversation with my brother Darren, who covers a lot of college baseball, as the game was starting. He called me and we were talking, and he said, "Well, do you know the big underlying story?" And I said, "No, I don't know what you're talking about." He said, "Well, the morning of the game 3, Texas announced that they were firing their head coach." There's a lot of connective tissue with the AD there and the two coaches that were in the deciding game. I think they touched on it during the game broadcast, ESPN did, but there was reason to believe that one of those two guys was going to be the next coach at Texas. And my brother made a great analogy. He said Texas is the Yankees of college baseball, and the idea that Vitello was going to go was kind of interesting because he doesn't match that culture, but maybe Schlossnagel does a little bit more. So kudos to him and the job he did, and getting an opportunity to go to a really high level, high pressure, big expectation type of program like the Texas Longhorns. So hats off to both programs. Like you said, Brian, it was a joy to watch them play that game.
Complete joy.
And, honestly, I will say this, it made me want to watch more college baseball.
Me too. Absolutely. I mean, Ashley even said that, next season we need to go up and watch some games live.
Sure.
And anytime you can get out to a ballpark, that's a great day.
Absolutely. Ashley, by the way, is Brian's lovely wife. who has at times been on the microphone.
She has been known to talk, yes.
Yeah, so we're still trying to figure out what exactly we're going to do with Brian after I bailed out of Two Guys Talking Baseball 2 years ago. Brian decided to do a few episodes of a different podcast with his wife that I was very impressed by and enjoyed a lot. So we're going to do something with those episodes, maybe throw them on the Patreon.
Yeah, make them available on the Patreon for everybody.
Yeah, I think that's probably what we've decided on. So we'll talk about that, excuse me, when we wrap things up later. But yeah, kudos to Tennessee, kudos to Texas A&M and everybody involved for putting together a great college baseball season. And, my brother Darren does a great ACC baseball podcast with Danny Graves, former Major League pitcher and broadcaster now. And so I'm sure Darren at some point will be on here to talk about that and talk some college ball with us. And yeah, we're looking forward to next season, I think, college ball wise after that championship
yeah,
game.
We're definitely going to take in some games and watch some more on TV and just get that whole overall experience from that level of the game.
Yeah, it was kind of refreshing because, the Major League season, which Brian and I, we watch our teams every day. For the most part, and it can get to be a bit of a grind. You know, there's parts of the year where things aren't going good, like you're talking about with the Cubs right now.
It's very tough.
And sometimes you just don't want to watch. But it was refreshing to have that high intensity, a lot on the line, and just the guys playing for the love of the game a little bit more, I think, than happens across the board, maybe at the top level. I name dropped Anthony Rendon. It's been in the news and the headlines this season about his comments about not really loving the game, doing it as a job. And I think that exists a little bit more at the major league level than it would at the college level, for sure. But yeah, just to put a bow on it, we're gonna try to keep more of an eye on the college game and cover that a little bit more because we got swept up by it,
absolutely
in that great game broadcast and yeah, so. Look for that next season. Hopefully this is a long-term thing for us this go round. I think that's the plan anyhow. So we'll keep an eye on the college game. All right, so we're going to move on. This is a segment we used to do that we're going to keep doing. We've changed our format a little bit, a couple of ways, trying to be a little more laid back, make it easier on us in the preparation for each episode. But we're going to do some quick hits, Brian. You ready to?
I am ready for
fire?
Quick hitting rapid fire competition.
All right. So I saw this just maybe last night or the night before as I was perusing our Twitter. We're not going to call it the other thing. It's Twitter and tweets forever, no matter who likes it and who doesn't. But I was on the Two Guys Talking Baseball Twitter. That's at 2GTB Pod. Please follow us. I try to post a lot and share things that I see baseball related on there, but I saw Jeff Passan, the premier baseball writer, journalist, what have you in the world right now. He had tweeted out a link to an ESPN article by Alden Gonzalez about something called Traject Arc. It's a new sort of pitching machine that's been designed that can mimic any pitch that's been thrown in the major leagues. I'm assuming that StatCast has a lot to do with this, and as far as the the visuals of it all, because
the mapping.
The mapping. That's the word I'm looking for. But Brian, this thing is really cool, and hitters now have a new weapon, as Passan put it, against elite pitching. But man, the first thing I thought, and I think you admitted to, the first thing you thought when you played, you famously couldn't hit the curveball.
I couldn't hit a curveball. That's why I was a really good fielder and could play on the college level as a fielder. I couldn't even hit as a little leaguer. If somebody threw a fastball, I was pretty good. But if they put any movement on it, I was done for.
Yeah. So imagine if you had this technology back then and you could say, well, I'm facing, Stinky Jones from wherever tomorrow. I'm going to set this thing up to just throw me his curveball over and over.
Yes. It might have saved my baseball career.
We could be talking about a whole different life for you.
Yes, it could. I mean, we'd have never got into wrestling. It would be totally different. I needed this thing, man. We need to get the time machine and go backwards with it.
Yeah, if only. All right, moving along. The Grimace Mets, man. This is one of the weirdest, coolest stories in baseball right now. So back on, let me see, June 12th, Grimace, the famous purple thing that is a McDonald's character, McDonald's mascot, threw out the first pitch at Citi Field. Since that day, the Mets are 11-2. They just swept a 2-game series, the Subway Series, with their crosstown rivals, the Yankees, who are really stinking good. This is the type of thing, Brian, that can propel a team that's on the fringes into being a competitor, because I think back to 2002, I think it was, the rally monkey for the Angels. Quirky little thing. You might think whatever. It's a gimmick. It doesn't mean anything. They go on and win the World Series kind of unexpectedly. I don't know, man. This is a small sample size. The Mets are going to Met. They always do. But, man, I don't know. 11-2 since the deal, and the fans are back at the ballpark, and they're wearing the costumes. They're making the big signs and all. I mean, it's a phenomenon right now. And I think all that energy is pushing the Mets towards competing. I don't know. What do you think?
You can't mess with something like that. I mean, Grimace comes out. He's a star in his own field. He comes up there and he motivates the players. I mean, they've got to put him on the payroll. He's got to make all the ballparks. He's got to be on the plane with them. I'm telling you, Grimace is something not to mess with, and they are playing great.
And McDonald's is loving this.
Of course.
No pun intended. They, very shortly after the Grimace era sort of became a thing online, they switched their social media. Their profile picture was Grimace in the Mets hat. They had a banner photo, a cover photo, whatever you want to call it, that was Grimace, and a bat. And it just, they're absolutely into this, because McDonald's, they're all about that money.
Oh, yeah.
And Mets fans are probably pulling through that drive-through a lot more than they were a month ago.
Of course. And what is Grimace? I think he's a gumdrop.
Who knows? Grimace is kind of his own thing now. He's been around long enough that, he's just a Grimace. That's what he is, you know? A lovable character from our childhood is now propelling the Mets to success.
I mean, can he stick around the whole season? Will they be able to get it done? I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but they're off on a very good start.
Yeah, we're going to keep an eye on the Mets. They're in a good position right now, but, man, with this new playoff format, there's so many teams that feel like they're in it. It's going to be very interesting. But moving along, Brian, this is a big one for you and your Cubs fandom. Ryan Sandberg had his statue finally unveiled at Wrigley Field. That was June 23rd. It was the 40th anniversary of the Sandberg game,
yes,
which was sort of the moment where he became more than a man, I think.
Yeah. A legend.
An absolute legend, and went on to have a brilliant career. You can bring up Joe Morgan and Roberto Alomar and some other guys. Maybe Honus Wagner gets thrown in that conversation if you want to go all the way back. But for my money, Ryan Sandberg belongs in the conversation as the best second baseman of all time.
Oh, he without a doubt is the best second baseman of all time. The statue looked great with the colors, the rustic look, but with the blue tints on them, with the shoes and the caps and stuff like that. An amazing statue. I just love the statue. And he said in an interview that when they asked him about it, he wanted to be in a fielding pose because that's what he resonated with. He felt that being a batter, anybody could do that, but his fielding was really where he stood out. And I love the statue. It was Bill Murray came out for it.
Sure, of course he did.
I mean, I'm pretty sure he just lives at the park. But it was a great night, and I watched the Sandberg game when it happened. All those many years ago.
Yeah, just a great moment in time, and you're right, a beautiful statue. The color accent sets it apart, I think, from other statues at other ballparks. And you're right. I saw that same interview where he talked about wanting to be in a fielding position because he said, everybody slumps at the plate.
Right.
But if you can bring your glove to the park every day and give your team solid defense behind your pitcher, you could be in there every day, even when you were struggling with the bat. And he felt like that was an important part of his game, and it was. That was part of what made him so great, was his overall game. I mean, really a guy that was gonna help the team any way he could, and defense was a big part of that, of course. So
well-rounded.
Yeah, well-rounded player. I don't know that I'd go all the way to 5-tool, but close, real close. But a great ball player and a great man. Happy to see him. He seems healthy too, which is great, because we were real worried when he got that cancer diagnosis. What was that, last year? I guess it came out, and so to see him up on his feet and looking good and happy and to be celebrated, it's just good that he was around to see this happen and to feel the effect that game and his career had on not just Cubs baseball, but baseball as a whole. I saw some pictures and some posts of people I know from the internet that are not Cubs fans that were in attendance, because he has that much of an appeal to baseball fans on the whole. So congrats to Rhino. Very happy to see that. And again, a beautiful statue. So to the sculptor and to everybody with the Cubs, kudos there. Really momentous occasion. Speaking of momentous, going from your team to my team, the Dodgers, Shohei Ohtani is a flipping unicorn, man. He is not human. He just broke a Dodger franchise record. He has an RBI in 10 consecutive games. And this isn't the LA Dodgers. This is the Dodgers all the way back to the 1800s and the Robins and the Bridegrooms and all that. Nobody in Dodger history has ever done what he's doing right now. And he's doing it out of the leadoff spot because Mookie Betts is out with injury. And Oral Hershiser on one of the game broadcasts the last couple of days said, the media is starting to poke at Dave. We got some time till Mookie's back, but they're already thinking, hey, when Mookie comes back, is he going back in that leadoff spot, or are you going to keep Shohei there? Because he's been red hot doing Shohei Ohtani things, which we'll get into a little bit more here in just a minute when we talk about our All-Star picks. But Brian, I mean, I looked at my partner Jen the other night watching the game. She was watching with me, and I said, it is a blessing and an honor and a privilege to get to watch Shohei Ohtani every single day.
Yeah, I mean, what do you think? Do you think he stays in the number one position? I think you leave him there. You don't mess with that when Mookie comes back.
Well, there's a couple ways of looking at it. Number one, Mookie is really comfortable in the leadoff spot, and I think Shohei is capable of doing these kind of things anywhere in the order. The other thing that is interesting is when Mookie went on the shelf, Dave did something he was not doing previously, and that is break up Shohei and Freddie Freeman, who are both left-handed hitters and really good left-handed hitters, because Dave has always kind of gone, right, left, just because with the new 3-batter minimum rule, if you're going to bring in a lefty to face Shohei and Freddie, you're going to have to deal with a right-handed hitter. And right now, a lot of times, that's Will Smith, who is a lefty killer, one of the best hitters against left-handers in all of baseball. So, I think there's a couple different ways of looking at it. The good thing with the Dodgers is their analytics team and their scouting teams are second to none in my book. And they're going to have all kinds of numbers and stats and ways of looking at it, and they're going to figure it out. And I'm sure they're already thinking about that. I mean, we got time again. We got a while before Mookie's back, but again, the goal in LA is October and a championship, and I'm sure that's on Dave's mind. What are we going to do in October if we've got all these guys? Where are we going to put them in the order? I'm sure it's already on his mind. Right.
I mean, what about a 1-2 punch of Mookie being in the one slot and Ohtani in the second slot? I mean, that's you got speed there and you got the RBI ability. So,
right.
I agree with what you're saying that Ohtani can produce in anywhere you put him. And we'll just have to see where Dave thinks is best for him. But I mean, he's bringing it. He's the star. I mean, it's no hype. It's all meat and potatoes with him.
Yeah. Good problem to have. For Dave Roberts, for Doc, and the Dodgers, and For us, it's kind of boring radio because he's the reigning NL Player of the Week, and there is no curse right now.
No curse, no NL Player of the Week curse this go around.
If you are not familiar with the curse of the NL Player of the Week, please go back in the archives and listen to our original 11 episodes from 2022. We had a lot of fun with the curse of the NL Player of the Week. It was a real thing for a while.
Yes, it was.
Francisco Lindor jamming his thumb in a hotel room, and all kinds of crazy stuff happened anytime anybody won the NL Player of the Week back then. So please go check that out. But let's do our last little quick hit here. This was something I threw on kind of last minute. We've been gone for 2 years. We're getting started halfway through the season this year, so I wanted to kind of catch up on some things. Rintaro Sasaki, he was expected to be the number one overall pick, pretty consensus across the board in the NPB draft in Japan. I've read some places that the high school statistics are kept kind of shady over there, but best anyone can tell, he hit 140 home runs in high school, which broke the previous record by a lot. He's a power hitter. He's a prodigy. He has done something unprecedented and decided to forego a professional career in Japan at all. He's 19 years old. He's over here. He's in the States now. He's going to be attending Stanford.
Okay.
And playing at Stanford. He's in the MLB Draft League right now, one of the summer collegiate leagues, one of the affiliate leagues of Major League Baseball, playing for the Trenton Thunder. And his first game there, he hits a home run. And it's just a fascinating story that I think as his career goes on at Stanford and beyond, he's going to get a lot of attention. And especially here's the thing. Ohtani just got the biggest contract in the history of everything.
Right.
Yoshinobu Yamamoto just got the biggest contract in history for someone who only pitches. Japan won a really great, amazing, entertaining World Baseball Classic, and there's more guys coming.
Right.
Roki Sasaki is posting at the end of this season. There's tons of guys from Japan that are major league ready. But Rintaro Sasaki is foregoing that whole weird, complicated posting system, and he's coming straight to the United States. Brian, we got to keep an eye on this guy. I mean, this is going to be a huge story.
Without a doubt. I mean, with all the Japanese players coming over and him going, bypassing playing over there to come here, I mean, we got to see what happens with this kid. I mean, it's amazing. I mean, 140 home runs, that's wild.
Yeah, he beat the previous high school record by like 20-some. I mean, he just crushed it. And I get the feeling with his ambition and the fact that not only did he say, I'm going to play in college, but, I read some articles from before he had committed to Stanford, and everybody thought it was going to be Vandy. And, Vandy's like the top program in baseball, in college baseball, and everybody thought, oh, it's Vandy. And then he just picks Stanford. He wanted to go to Stanford. I think we might have another Ohtani on our hands. Not that there's ever going to be another Shohei Ohtani, but from an attention standpoint, from one of the things that makes Shohei so great is he's so regimented. He lives his life so privately. He's just very much about putting in the work.
Right.
And focusing mentally. Baseball is such a mental game. We could talk all day about the mental aspect of baseball, but that's what makes Shohei so great. And I think Rintaro Sasaki, based on the little bit we know about him, I think he's got that same wiring. And I don't know if it's a cultural thing or if it's just he sees guys doing that over there and emulates it. But I'm really intrigued to see what this kid does at Stanford and beyond, because if he goes to Stanford and continues to hit the way he has in high school in Japan and the way he seems to be already hitting in the draft league, the sky's the limit.
There's no stopping him with those kind of numbers. I mean, I almost don't even have anything to say because it's just boggles my mind. 140 home runs.
Yeah.
I mean, we definitely got to watch this kid without a doubt.
100%. More on Rintaro Sasaki in the future. Fortunately for us, Stanford is in the ACC, and as I mentioned, my brother Darren does a fantastic ACC baseball podcast, so I'm sure Rentaro Sasaki will come up when we talk to Darren in the future. But that's going to do it for Quick Hits, and we're going to move on. So today, as we're recording, is the last day of the first phase of voting for the All-Star Game. And as Brian and I do every year, whether we're doing a podcast or not,
right,
we go in and vote for the All-Star Game and then compare our picks. So, Brian, you ready to do some All-Star picks here?
I have picked some All-Stars. Yes, I have.
All right, so here's how we're going to do this. We're going to start with the American League. Brian and I both obviously less familiar with the American League than the National League because we watch a lot more National League teams through the Cubs and the Dodgers. But we're going to start with the AL. We're going to go position by position, the same order that you vote when you go on the website. Be sure. Well, I guess by the time you hear this, it'll be over, and we'll be in the second phase of voting. But we'll certainly talk about that when we get to it. But Brian, let's get started with your American League first baseman,
Vladimir Guerrero. So he's got the power. He's out there. I really enjoy watching this kid, and he may be leaving his team. I'm not going to, rumor anything out, but I'm hoping really big that this guy leaves the Blue Jays.
Yeah, I find it fascinating that the Blue Jays are being sort of talked about like they're sellers because they have a lot of talent on that squad. I also picked Vladdy Jr. Had a little bit of a down year last year. His career OPS plus, though, is 131, and it's 130 for the season this year. So we're kind of just back to the Vladimir Guerrero Jr. that we expect to see.
Right.
And that's an MVP quality guy at first base. He's done a lot of work on his body and his conditioning to be a better defensive first baseman, which I've always admired about him. And, I mean, I grew up watching his dad, so that Blue Jays team, when they were just loaded, the whole infield was second-generation major league guys. I just loved them. I'm right there with you. Vlad Guerrero Jr., I think he's the guy there at first base.
Yeah, without a doubt.
All right. I almost don't want to talk about second base, but go ahead.
Well, I had to go with Jose Altuve.
Yeah, me too.
And I mean, we didn't have much choice there, did we?
No, I looked at it and it was like, there's got to be somebody. There's got to be anybody I can vote for other than Altuve because I can't stand that guy.
I know, me either.
But it's him.
He's the premier American League second baseman.
Yeah,
I mean, whether we like it or not.
Yeah, he's the only guy there that I thought had all-star credentials. I can't remember the name, but the guy from the Twins had good numbers, but I didn't even know who he was. And it's the All-Star game, so you got to have some appeal, to be a starter in the All-Star game. In my opinion, it is a popularity contest.
It is,
but that's why the fans get to vote because Major League Baseball understands that that it's less about the statistics and more about who do the fans want to see all together in Texas this year for the All-Star game, right? So,
yeah.
All right, third base is going to get a little interesting, so go ahead.
Isaac Paredes.
Oh, Isaac Paredes.
Isaac.
Yeah,
yes.
Isaac Paredes.
Isaac.
That's an interesting pick. What led you to Paredes?
I actually was watching Tampa Bay some.
Okay.
And he's just my pick, man. I enjoy watching him play.
Yeah.
And that's my American League team is the Rays.
Yeah, right on. I like Isaac Paredes. He's a good player. I think at the end of the day, this is all sort of mental masturbation, so to speak, because this is Jose Ramirez's spot. He's driving in runs like it's easy and has Cleveland playing really good ball. But the guy I looked at was Royce Lewis from the Twins. He's only played 20 games this year. Okay. Small sample size, but in that 20 games, he has a 215 OPS plus. This guy has been riddled with injuries from the word go. When he's healthy, he's an all-star.
Right.
And we talk about this a lot, Brian. When we talk baseball and when we've done this podcast in the past, you got to stay on the field. If this guy can stay on the field, the Twins have an all-star in their hands. And I just felt like, I think it's a foregone conclusion Jose Ramirez is probably going to start the all-star game at third base for the American League, and he should. I didn't want to leave Royce Lewis out of this conversation, though, because that's, 100 OPS plus is the league average hitter.
Yeah.
He's more than 100% better than league average in those 20 games. I know it's 20 games. I get that. but that's marvelous. I mean, that's fantastic.
If he can stay healthy, he's on pace to be an all-star.
Absolutely. All right, so let's go to shortstop in the American League.
Shortstop, I got Bo Bichette.
I love Bo Bichette, man.
I just like saying the name, Bo Bichette.
Bo Bichette. It sounds like Boba Fett.
It does.
Bo Bichette. He's another guy that's been bandied about in some of these trade rumors, and a lot of people think the Dodgers should make a play for him, and I just don't. I'm not sure how I feel about that. Obviously, I'd be happy to see him as a Dodger because I really like him. Again, one of those guys from Toronto that I grew up watching his dad. I loved Dante Bichette growing up.
Right.
But yeah, so I couldn't go any direction other than Gunnar Henderson from the Baltimore Orioles here. He is having a monster year. He's already got 5.9 WAR. Say what you want about WAR as a statistic, but to me, that means he's doing it. He's doing it all. He's hitting, he's fielding, he's running the bases. Baltimore's got something on their hands with Gunnar Henderson for sure.
Yeah, no, that's a good pick. It's a very good pick. But who do you think will get the nod though?
I think Gunner's got a good shot. Yeah. I haven't looked at who's leading in the shortstop category over there much, but I mean, I think Gunner's got a good shot. I mean, he's having a monster year. The Orioles are right there in the conversation again in the American League East. Again, it's a tough division. But yeah, I mean, I think he's got as good a shot as anybody else.
Right.
All right, let's move to the outfield. Go ahead and give me all three of your outfilders and talk a little bit about why you picked them.
Well, I got Aaron Judge because, he's the big power guy. I got Tommy Pham and Juan Soto from the Sox and the Yankees, respectively.
Tommy Pham is an interesting one to me because he's really been a journeyman. But he's, the White Sox are terrible. Mm-hmm. They are not good at all. But he's been their best hitter. He's leading off for them now. And I think it's really interesting because, again, he's on a bad team doing well. Does he get shipped off to a contender just like he did last year? Because you look at the World Series, and I know the Diamondbacks came up short, but he was the best hitter for the Diamondbacks in the World Series last year. And he falls to a kind of lowly team and doesn't really get a big contract. And I don't know, man.
He's not staying there on the South Side.
I don't think he is, man. Yeah. And that's so fascinating. Is it just his attitude? Is he just that bad of a dude that nobody wants to give him a real contract? Or I don't. He's a fascinating case study. But I'm glad he came up because he does deserve some consideration here. Typically with teams that are that bad and everybody's got to have a representative.
Right.
But it's usually with teams that bad, it's usually like, oh, just give them a relief pitcher.
Right.
Tommy Pham might be the guy for the White Sox. I mean, he might be it might be Garrett Crochet, who's been pitching really well for them. But yeah, Tommy Pham belongs in this conversation. I landed similarly. Aaron Judge, 5.7 WAR, 217 OPS plus. And he's played the whole year.
Yeah.
This ain't a Royce Lewis where it's 20 games. He's played the whole first half of the year and is more than 100% better than league average. That is ungodly. That is crazy. I mean, that is just unbelievable. And that's why the Yankees are where they are right now.
It is. He's the major factor.
And another reason for that is Juan Soto, who I also picked. 434 on base, which is crazy. He's one of those guys, similar to Bryce Harper, who we'll get to when we talk about the National League. But I hate Juan Soto. But if he was on my team, I would love him.
Right.
I don't
want to play against him.
I just don't want to look across and see him, know. And that was a big storyline when the Dodgers were at Yankee Stadium. Soto was out of the lineup, and I was okay with that. I was okay with that because he's really good and takes a lot of walks, but also can hurt you if there's guys on base. And a good attitude guy too. Brings a lot of swagger to the team and brought something to the Yankees more than just what he does on the field.
Right.
So my third outfielder in the American League, I picked Stephen Kwan from Cleveland.
Okay.
Not a big power guy, not a lot of slug, but has a 377 batting average, 182 OPS plus. And I think he's as big a reason as anybody why Cleveland's having the year they're having. I know we talked about Jose Ramirez, but in order for Jose Ramirez to drive in, all those runs, somebody's got to get on base in front of him, and that's been Stephen Kwan a lot this year.
Right.
All right, so we're getting close to the end here on the American League.
All
Brian,
right.
who is your American League catcher?
I have Adley Rutschman.
Yeah, I got Adley again too, and I think I don't know, man. He's kind of the standard bearer at catcher in the American League now.
He really is. I mean, he's the go-to guy. I mean, he's doing great, and we've picked him previously, didn't we?
Well, we've talked about Adley a lot because I've liked Adley for a long time. My brother Darren put him on my radar when he was in college and talked very highly of him. And, for me, the moment he stepped on the field and shook the umpire's hand and looked around and took it all in and they caught that on camera, that was the moment where I went, you know what? There's something to this kid.
Yeah, he gets it.
It's just a feeling, and I know that's normally your department.
Yes,
I'm
feeling.
the numbers.
You're the numbers, and I'm the emotion.
Yeah, but I love that, and you look at the where the Orioles were when he debuted and what they've done since then. There's something to Adley Rutschman.
Oh, without a doubt there is.
And I am the numbers guy. So as a catcher, as an everyday catcher, as much as you can be an everyday catcher these days, 297, 14 home runs, 53 RBI. I mean, that's outfielder or shortstop numbers. That's not catcher numbers. So
right.
The Orioles have produced an amazing lineup. There were other guys that I considered for the Orioles in other spots that just didn't quite make the cut that I think will be on the team. But Adley's the straw that stirs the drink for the Baltimore Orioles and will be for a very long time.
Oh, absolutely. He's their guy now. I mean, with all those great teams they had past and lore, he's the extenuation of that, the new version of that.
Absolutely. I mean, he's a franchise guy. To be sure. All right, so now we're going to the designated hitter, which used to only be the American League, but now we get to pick in both leagues. So who you got there, Brian?
Giancarlo Stanton. Now, I realize he's injured, but that was my pick when I made it. He wasn't on the injured list yet.
Right. Well, I mean, that's the thing about the All-Star voting too is and we'll touch on this more when we get to the NL on one of my picks, but yeah, I mean, just because he's injured doesn't mean he doesn't deserve it. I went a little bit different direction. I went Yordan Alvarez from Houston. I just think it's his spot to lose right now. Yeah. He's sort of the way we've talked about Adley at catcher. I think Yordan Alvarez is kind of that guy, designated hitter. Now, granted, Stanton is fantastic as well. There's some other guys, doing some good things in the DH spot in the American League, but Yordan Alvarez is just he's just that guy, and I think it's his spot to lose. As much as my disdain for the Astros persists, that's the guy I picked. 147 OPS plus on the season. Just a consistent, solid hitter, and that's what you want in your DH spot.
Oh yeah, absolutely, consistency. The ability to get the job done for sure.
All right, we're going to move on to the National League, and man, this was a lot of fun for me because there's a lot of guys having great seasons in the National League. There were some close races for me, and I'm going to talk about that, but let's get started. Who you got at first base?
Freddie Freeman.
And I love that pick because Freddie, talking about a consistent hitter, there were times this season where everyone talked about Freddie, and Freddie talked about Freddie like he was struggling or he was going through it. And he was hitting like 280.
Yeah.
And now he's back up towards 300. I just could not, and I know this is going to rub you the wrong way, I could not deny Bryce Harper.
Oh, my gosh.
Because as you've wanted for years, he's healthy.
Oh, I know.
He's on the field.
Yes.
3.6 WAR, 177 OPS plus. 20 home runs, and the last thing in my notes was sorry, Freddie. I'm sorry. I love you. You're my guy. Go Dodgers all the way. But watching Bryce Harper, this I think is a good time to bring up the point that when I look at these picks and I look at the differentiation we have, the level of talent in the major leagues right now is maybe at an all-time high.
Oh, yeah, I agree with
There
that.
are traffic jams at so many of these spots, and Bryce Harper is at the top of the list. He's one of those guys. If Shohei Ohtani decided to become a lawyer, if Mookie Betts had gone to bowling or basketball, we'd be talking about Bryce Harper every day.
Right.
Because he's that good of a player. He's a generational guy, and I will never forget watching him hit that home run in the NLCS when everybody in the world, everybody in the building, everybody watching on TV knew. There was a feeling. I'm feeling it now. I'm getting goosebumps. You knew he was going to come through, and then he did it.
Yeah.
That control of the moment, that is something that doesn't get talked about enough when you're separating guys who are good players or great players and then like the greatest players. And that's what separates Bryce Harper apart is he has control of the moment in those biggest moments. So I couldn't deny him that spot. Again, sorry, Freddie. I love you, man. I'm sure you'll be there. But Bryce, it's Bryce's starting spot. All right, let's move on to second base.
I got Ozzie Albies from Atlanta.
I love Ozzie, man. And
Yeah, he's a fun player.
He is fun. He's a lot of fun. He loves the game. He's fun to watch. But for me, this year, Ketel Marte, just kind of picking up where he left off last year. I've always liked Ketel Marte. He's one of those guys that I've always thought, man, he'd be cool to have him on the Dodgers. Get to see him a lot in the division with Arizona. 4.1 WAR, 139 OPS plus. He deserves a nod this year, man. And he's been consistently good for Arizona for a long time, and deserves some flowers. He got some in the playoffs last year because he performed really well in their World Series run. But give him the All-Star nod. He deserves it, man. Really, really solid player. All right, I guess that brings us to third base.
Well, and here's where, I picked Christopher Morel, and that was a feeling. That's a popularity vote.
Of course.
I realize that he doesn't really stand a chance of that, but on my all-star team, he's my third baseman.
Well, here's the thing about Christopher Morel for me. And Brian and I, if you're watching us on YouTube, you see he's decked out in the Smokies, the Double-A affiliate of the Cubs that are just down the road here in Tennessee for us, so we get to see them quite a bit. We got to see a lot of Christopher Morel up close and in person. If he saw a kid, they were best friends.
Yeah, absolutely.
He loves interacting with children in the ballpark, in the stands. Electric player. You want to talk about love and playing the game. Mm-hmm. There's nowhere else in the world he would rather be than standing on third base at Wrigley Field every day. And I love him. Little down year for him, but if I'm building a franchise, he's one of the first guys I want to build around.
Oh, yeah, without a doubt. And he's just so fun, and he's a hugger, so he hugs everybody. And like you said, when he sees a kid at the ballpark when he was with the Smokies, I mean, all those kids legitimately thought that he was their best friend.
Yeah. I mean, he elevated their experience at the game so much. And that, to me, that's as important as anything else. You want that on your ball club, and the Cubs are lucky to have him. I had to go a little bit different route, though, because, again, the numbers aren't there for Morel this year. I mean, right. He was my guy last year. If you go back and listen last year, he was my guy. But I went Alec Baum from the Phillies. A lot of RBIs. A lot of that is the lineup he's in, but we'll talk more about RBIs and what they mean with another pick I had earlier, 138 OPS plus for Baum. When he first came up, he was highly touted and struggled. Was getting some of the jeers that the Philly fans are famous for, and took it on the chin, turned it around, and now is a big part of Philadelphia's success. And they're having a monster year, leading the NL standings and not looking like they're going to slow down. So I had to go Alec Baum, but yeah, man, I love Christopher Morel. So shout out to him. Hope he continues to be successful, and he'll get that All-Star nod one day. He's headed there. He's still pretty young, I think, too.
He is. He just turned 25.
Yeah, so
like a few days ago.
Yeah, so still a lot of baseball left there if he stays healthy, and yeah, we'll see Christopher Morel there one day.
Absolutely.
All right, my bias is about to show over these next couple of picks, next few picks. Let's go to shortstop.
All right. De La Cruz is my shortstop for Cincinnati.
Ellie De La Cruz, man, one of the most fun players to watch in all of the game. That inning last year when he stole 3 bases in the same inning, he stole second, he stole third, he stole home.
Yeah.
That is going to be a moment that's going to be replayed over and over for eternity.
Yes.
Ellie's great. Really fantastic. Love him a lot. I'll be honest, this was the only position, AL or NL, I didn't even look. I went right to Mookie Betts, and here's why. Yes, he's on the injured list. No, he won't be able to play if he is selected. However, Mookie is a face of the league type of guy. And something that I pound into people's minds constantly is the idea that we have sort of turned baseball, intentionally or not, into a little bit of a country club sport. And young black American kids aren't playing baseball anymore because, and I don't want to get too far down a sociological rabbit hole here, but if you grow up with no money and you get an opportunity, let's just look at Kyler Murray a few years ago. He could either go to the NFL and be a millionaire day one, or he could go to baseball and spend 4 or 5, maybe longer years in the minor leagues making peanuts and eating ramen noodles. Of course he's going to pick football.
Right.
And I talked to people close to the situation, and there was belief that Kyler would rather play baseball, but the money was the deciding factor.
Right.
That is a problem for baseball. That is a problem for the major leagues, and that's a problem for Rob Manfred. And they've done a lot to address it. I'll give them that. But we need to continue, and we need to do more. And Mookie Betts, I think it was last year or maybe the year before at the All-Star game, was walking around with an airbrush T-shirt that just said, "We need more black people at the ballpark."
Yeah.
And he's right. American black people, we need them back at the ballpark.
Yeah, absolutely.
Because Willie Mays just passed away. And one of the famous stories about Willie Mays is him playing baseball in the streets of New York with sticks and rocks. That's baseball. You can play it anywhere. You don't have to have money to play baseball.
Right.
And the fact that we've cornered this game into that position, like we've cornered so many other things in this country, to being revolved solely around money first, pardon my language, but it's bullshit, and I'm sick of it. And Mookie Betts is the poster boy for that movement.
Right.
And for that reason, now listen, I could talk about his numbers all day because they're there. But at the end of the day, the All-Star game is, the showcase of the immortals, if you want to put it that way. I mean, this is where it all stars. And Mookie's a star. He's one of the biggest stars in the league. He's one of the best players in the league. I mean, the guy is a 6-time Gold Glove right fielder, and he moved to shortstop this year.
Right.
And has done pretty well. I mean, you can look at the defensive metrics. I don't get too into the defensive metrics because I don't think, when one says he's top 5 and one says he's bottom 5 in the whole league, it's hard to say which one's accurate. There's a lot of noise when it comes to defensive metrics. I watch the Dodgers every day. Yeah, he's made errors, but who doesn't at every position?
Right.
When you play 162, just the gumption to say, yeah, I want to play shortstop now. I want to help the team
and move. Yeah.
So I got a lot of love for Mookie Betts. Obviously, he might be my favorite player in all of baseball, but I didn't even look. Didn't even look at the numbers. Didn't look at anybody else. I went straight to Mookie. Love Ellie De La Cruz. He'll be there. He'll be an all-star,
right?
For sure. But Mookie's the guy.
Right. I agree with Mookie's the guy. I mean, he's the guy you want playing there.
Totally.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that.
All right, let's talk about your outfield.
All right, my outfield, I got Cody Bellinger, Ian Happ, because they're my boys.
Yeah, that's a little bias shining through.
And Jason Hayward.
More bias showing through. More bias.
So my whole outfield is made by Cubs and former Cubs.
Well, I love all 3 of those guys. Obviously, Hayward's a Dodger now. Cody is a Dodger legend. Won a World Series with the Dodgers. Won a Rookie of the Year and an MVP there. I've always loved Cody Bellinger. Ian Happ, solid. I mean, just one of those guys that shows up every day and helps the team. I mean, really fantastic. Jason Hayward, people might be going, or when you say his name in an all-star conversation. Look at the numbers.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's the thing the Dodgers do, though. The Dodgers take guys like Jason Hayward, who are forgotten about and put in the scrap heap, and put them in the position they need to be in to succeed.
Right.
He doesn't hit a lot against lefties. Now, when he has this year, he's been better against them.
Right.
But he doesn't do it that often because he's just not. He needs to be in there against right-handed pitching, and it's hard to say a platoon guy should be an all-star, but he brings so much more to the table. I mean, from
oh yeah, he's
Cubs
he's
years.
a motivator. He keeps the team together, and he's defensively. I mean, he's solid there. I mean, he's just a good player to have on your team.
Very good player. He's made a difference for the Dodgers in the clubhouse and off the field for sure. So I can get down with those picks. As biased as they may be, I can get down with those picks. Okay, so very quickly on my outfield, Jurickson Profar from the Padres. I think last check he was the number one vote getter in the outfield, and with good reason. 156 OPS plus. His on base is over 400. He's having a monster year for San Diego. More rivals I'm picking here, but this year's kind of surprise for me has been the Giants center fielder Helio Ramos.
Okay.
Hitting the ball really well, playing good out in the outfield, 158 OPS plus. Just saw him in person not that long ago, and really, really impressed with his game this year. He's having a good year. I think he deserves an all-star nod. Maybe not a starter, but wanted to bring him into the conversation.
Right.
And I'm a big American Dad fan, and just every time I hear his name, I go Helio. Helio Ramos, Helio. Sorry if you are not familiar with the reference, but that's what plays in my head. All right, my third outfield spot. And again, the Dodger bias might be shining through, but I went Teoscar Hernandez. A lot of RBIs this year, and man, every time Teoscar Hernandez has stepped into the batter's box in a big moment this year for the Dodgers, he has delivered. He went off at Yankee Stadium for 3 games, was just you couldn't get him out. And a good Yankee team with some good pitching couldn't get him out. And I saw, Dave Roberts before the game in the last couple of days was asked a little bit about, where some of his players were in the voting for the All-Star game. And he talked about Teoscar, and RBI has become a stat that a lot of people discount.
Right.
As a situational stat, as something that, guys get more RBIs because they're in better lineups. And while there is some truth to that, Dave Roberts made a very good point. He said if you talk to pitchers, they will tell you when there's guys in scoring position, they pitch differently. Mm-hmm. When you talk to hitters, they will tell you when they are at the plate and there's runners in scoring position, they get pitched to differently. So there is value in rising to that occasion, stepping up to that moment, and driving runs in. Here's the deal. The goal is to score more runs than the other team.
Right.
RBI is a valuable statistic. Now, I'm not putting somebody in the All-Star game solely on RBIs, but that is still a stat that I think has more merit than a lot of people that are really into advanced statistics like I am give it credit for. Teoscar is a star. My one complaint with Teoscar right now is he's only on a 1-year contract, and the Dodgers haven't inked him up yet.
Yeah, and they need to.
I want him in Dodger blue for a long time. He wants to be in Dodger blue for a long time. He has said publicly he's sick of jumping around. He feels like he belongs with the Dodgers, and he wants to win. And if you want to win and you got a shot to play for the Dodgers, it's a no-brainer.
Oh, absolutely.
Because again, that is the culture in LA now. The culture is winning and going for a championship. We don't win it every year. Nobody wins it every year. But the goal is to win. And if you get a chance to play for the Dodgers, that's giving yourself a really good opportunity to get a ring or 2 or 3 if you're under contract for a while. So
definitely put you in the conversation every time.
I had to put Teo in there. He has become very quickly one of my favorite players in the game, and I will be heartbroken if he plays 1 year and they let him walk.
Yeah. I enjoy watching him play for you guys, and I hope they get him and keep him.
I do too. All right. Who is your National League catcher?
Well, I went with Willie Contreras and
William, not Wilson, right?
Right, William.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one used to be the Cub.
No.
Yes.
Wilson used to be a Cub. William is his little brother who plays for the Brewers now.
Okay, well then I've got them mixed up. But the point being is I didn't think about Will Smith.
Okay.
Till after the fact.
See, and I think that's a big problem because here's the thing, bias showing through again, I am definitely picking Will Smith.
Right.
William Contreras is probably going to start the All-Star game. He's had a great year. He's up for a batting title, which is really impressive as a catcher.
Right.
But the idea that Will Smith is third in National League catcher voting is absolutely absurd to me. I didn't do a lot of research on Will Smith, so I can't rattle off numbers, but here's the deal. I see people talk all the time on Twitter about all the categories for the season, for the last 2 years, since Will came into the league, where Will is the top catcher.
Right.
WAR, hitting. This year he has become so hard to steal on. He has really shaped up his defense against the running game. The way he calls a game has gotten so much better. Will Smith is the best catcher in the game. He's just not a flashy guy.
Right.
He doesn't say much. He's not outlandish. He's a quiet, kind of reserved guy with a boring name. Mm-hmm. So I get it, but we gotta at some point start talking about him in the same conversations that we talk about guys like Adley Rutschman.
Right.
Because, it's absurd to me. It's absurd that so few people believe in Will Smith as an all-star. And it hurts me a little, really, at the end of the day.
Are you taking it personal?
I'm trying not to, Brian. I'm really trying not to, but it's hard because, I love my Dodgers and I watch them every day. And I see the work he's put in, and I see what he's done. When you watch Dodger games, they don't talk about a big three. Everybody talks about Freddie, Mookie, and Shohei. It's a big four with Will Smith. And honestly, if you want to get down to brass tacks, it's a big five with Teo.
Right.
I mean, this is a 1 through 5, 1 through 6. You add Max Muncy into that conversation when he's healthy. It's not just the guys with the big contracts and the big endorsement deals and all that. Will Smith is a big part of the Dodgers' success. He's a big part of why we win 100 games every year right now. And William Contreras, hats off to him. He's had a great year. He's doing it for the Brewers, and he's probably going to start the All-Star game, and I won't be upset if he does. But Will needs to be there.
Yeah.
Will needs to be there every year. You don't sign catchers to 10-year extensions.
Right.
The Dodgers are the smartest team when it comes to spending money on players. They just signed Will Smith to a 10-year extension. That's how good he is. So if you don't know about Will Smith, I encourage you. Even if you hate the Dodgers, I get it. Nobody likes us anymore. That's okay. You need to at least look into it because he is that good, and he needs to be in this conversation every single year as long as he's healthy and playing at the level he's played, the last 4 or 5 years. All right, so that moves us to the designated hitter, and this is going to be a short conversation.
Shohei Ohtani.
Who else?
Who else?
Who else? This guy has a 4.7 WAR all he does is DH.
Yeah.
He's played no defense, he hasn't pitched, and he has almost a 5 WAR halfway through the season. Holy guacamole. What's his 194 OPS plus? I mean, he's right there with Judge.
Yeah.
As far as hitting goes, and he's only heated up lately. So that number I think is just going to keep going up.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I mean, he's a unicorn.
Without a doubt, he is.
He's a once in a lifetime guy, and you and I have talked about this off air a lot. It is. We are so lucky to exist in a time where we get to see him play every day.
Yes.
He's the guy. I mean, he might be the National League MVP as a designated hitter, which would be the craziest thing to ever happen. Maybe.
Yeah, that is.
A full-time DH has never won MVP, and probably rightfully so. But now we live in a different time, and he's at least in the conversation.
Oh yeah,
as the MVP. So. Yeah, so that's our all-star picks. And again, I want to touch on the fact that there was a lot of traffic jams here. Some of these picks were really tough, and that's just the level of talent that's in the big leagues right now. I mean, this is a special time to be a baseball fan, a Major League Baseball fan. And I think, the All-Star Game is going to be a lot of fun.
It's going to be a blast. I can't wait to see it. It's always a good time. The Home Run Derby.
Yeah, speaking of the Derby, did you see Shohei said he has some interest in being in the Derby?
Oh, that is interesting.
Now, health is going to be a factor. He's still rehabbing his arm and his elbow. The Dodgers are big on workload, but they let Mookie do it last year.
Right.
Right.
So they may let him do it this year.
So if he wants to do it and they feel like he's, healthy enough to put in those extra swings, that would be amazing.
Yes, it would.
Really
it'd
cool.
Be something to see.
Really cool.
Real quick, I'm going off on a small tangent. What about we got to see Ohtani a couple years ago pitch when he was with the Angels, and it was his worst outing ever.
Oh, it's crazy. He got lit up. Cruised to the sixth inning, and they got on top of him.
I mean, the one time that he's off his game, we were there watching.
We were there. That place was dead and quiet, and then the sixth inning happened, and it was the loudest building I've ever been in my life.
Yeah, it was amazing to sit there and watch him go through that.
And we did an episode from our hotel room in Atlanta that you can see in the archives. That's on YouTube for the visual of us sitting in a hotel room doing an episode.
Yes, sitting there.
But it was a lot of fun. That was a good trip. I'm sure in the future we're going to do some more trips like that. We're racking our brain for fun stuff to do for not just the podcast, but for Patreon and little extras on social media. So we'll probably be going to some games and hooting and hollering and having a good time.
Without a doubt.
And Brian, I think that unless you got anything else,
we'll see him at the ballpark.
There you go. So that's going to do it for us this week. Brian is at 3 Crows Bry on Twitter. I'm at Dallas Danger. The show is at 2GTB Pod. Please follow us there. We try to be really interactive, especially if you're into music or wrestling. We're good follows for that too. But yeah, we've got our store back up. If you were with us in 2022, we had a really great shop with a lot of cool products, stuff for your pets, stuff for every member of the family.
Yeah, something for everybody.
Yeah, a lot of cool stuff, not just T-shirts, hats,
stuff you can use, not just stuff we're selling, stuff that you can actually use.
Yeah, really useful, practical stuff, not just clothes. So check that out. 2gtbstore.com is the place to go there. We've talked a little bit about our Patreon. We never really got into Patreon the first go round. We talked about it and never really got anywhere. We're hitting it hard now. We really want to bring you the opportunity to get closer with us and see more and hear more about us and the game we love. So patreon.com/2GTB. Actually, once we get done here and maybe take a little break, we're going to cut something. Brian has a little history on the bobblehead.
Yes, the history of the bobblehead will be on Patreon.
Yeah, so we're going to talk about that. And then I think next week we've decided at some point we're going to record a conversation about Brian and myself's favorite ballpark meals over the years.
Oh, yeah, you gotta get your grubbage on, and that's what we're going to be talking about next week.
Brian has a routine with food when he goes to the ballpark. It's fascinating. It's amazing. It's like it's based on what inning it is, and it's so great to see. So, hey, maybe if you guys get on board with us and support us, we'll be able to have a get together at a game sometime, and you can see it for yourself. But you got to go buy stuff. You got to go to the Patreon and subscribe there. We're not going to make it, crazy expensive. It's going to be affordable. We just want to offer a little bit more for anybody that wants it. And then if you're watching us on YouTube, thank you so much. Please subscribe to the channel. Leave us a comment. Comments help people find the show a little bit easier. And we're trying to do some things on YouTube that we need more subscribers for. So please subscribe to the YouTube. Even if you're not listening on YouTube, we would appreciate it a lot if you would head over there.
And just give us a click and subscribe.
Yeah, just search Two Guys Talking Baseball on YouTube. Should be easy to find. And we'll appreciate that very much. We're just trying to do some things on YouTube that we're restricted on because of our subscriber count. So tell your friends. If you like what you hear, please spread the word. We're trying to get this back out there. It's been a lot of fun today, Brian. I'm glad we're back to it.
I've had a blast. I'm glad we are too.
All right. So until next week, my name is Dallas Danger. That's Brian Logan. Thank you so much, and we'll talk to you next week.